Welcome to the first episode of Lifting with MS. My name is Thomas. I'm a bodybuilder, a public speaker, and a business owner. This is a podcast that I've wanted to do for a while. However, I'm nervous. And I know that sounds kind of weird because I'm a public speaker, but the more I was like, oh, today's the day, I'm going to start it. I'd write everything down. I'd get it all set up, and I'd sit in front of the mic and the camera. I'm like, no, I'm not ready. But one thing that I do talk about in all my social media is pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. And that's what I'm doing today. So we are starting this. So this podcast, like I said, is something I wanted to do for a while. And it's a place where I'm going to share my journey and my experiences living with multiple sclerosis. Also, my journey to the stage, taking some medals home with my very first time in a bodybuilding competition. I also want this to be a platform where I can connect with you guys, whether you're dealing with multiple sclerosis or any other kind of illness, whether you're in the waters of the fitness industry right now, or even if you're just trying to be the best version of yourself. If you fall in the cracks of any of those, you're in the right spot. I'm a normal dude. I'm just an average guy, just like everybody else. I just show up every day. And some days it's harder than others, but we still do it. I will say that I do have my phone on the side because I have some notes jotted down on some things I want to talk about in my first podcast. This is just going to kind of skim the surface of everything. Over these next few episodes, I guess is what we'll call them, I'll dive deeper into each topic, but I also want to hear from you guys on things that you want me to talk about. If you heard me mention something in a podcast and you want me to dive deeper in on that, feel free to message me. And on any of my social media handle is Lifting with MS. And I'd be more than happy to talk about it. And eventually I might be able to have some people participate in these podcasts, and we can hear your experience and your journey and how you faced all your challenges and just continue to show up every day. Because the more I'm trying to be the best version of myself and the more I'm putting myself out there through social media, I'm really starting to see there's a lot of people out there in the shadows that are doing some crazy cool things. And I would love to be able to network with you and shine your light on the world too. So let's start from the beginning. Let's start from before I was diagnosed with MS and before I was a bodybuilder. Before all of that, I was a normal guy. I worked 12, 13 hours, sometimes 14-hour days. I owned 40 acres on the eastern plains of Colorado. I had a house that was built in the 50s and a barn that I converted into an automotive shop. Sounds great. And it was. But the problem was I lived an hour and 20 minutes away from my job. So 3 hours out of my day was commuting. And then when I'd get home, I'd have to keep working on the house, fix this to fix that, it was just an endless cycle of work. And I'm not scared of work. I love working. I have a very intense work ethic. However, after getting diagnosed with MS, I realized that time is almost like my enemy. And living out there and having all that stuff was great. Believe me, having all the materials was awesome, but not having the time to enjoy it started to weigh very heavy on my mind and my heart. And I actually sold my house last year, right in the middle, just a couple months before I stepped on stage and while I was in prep for my bodybuilding show. I finally had enough and I said, no, I want to enjoy my life and focus on the quality of my life and not the quantity of materials I have in it. So I sold my house. It was a pretty quick sale. It was very stressful because the only thing you could think about the whole time was, what if this doesn't work out? Especially when I'm like in prep for a show. So, but it worked out. I now live in the heart of Denver. I have a beautiful view of the skyline, and then we have floor to ceiling windows all the way over here, and you can just see the whole Front Range, the mountains from basically Boulder all the way down to just past Castle Rock. If it was a condo, it's $1 million condo. Again, looking at someone who has 40 acres and moving into the city of Denver, some people may consider that a loss. I consider it a win because now I'm able to focus on the quality of my life, my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health, my relationships with my family and my friends, my businesses, you guys, all at the same time be able to honestly say that I enjoy who I am and what I do. So yeah, so it's kind of like a little rough coat of me a little bit before MS and bodybuilding. Obviously there's a whole lot more before that, but that could be another day. But we'll dive into my diagnosis. October 2023 was the day that my life really got put on a halt. Really just stopped. Now, the one weird part about my story, and a lot of people with MS can probably relate to this, is I had episodes, relapses is what we call them, prior to the one that hospitalized me in 2023. So in 2023, I was put in the hospital because they thought I was having a stroke. And that's what led to the MRI, which led to them finding all the lesions. But looking back before 2023, I actually had relapses before then. But I do have two other incurables. I have thalassemia minor, which is a type of blood anemia. And then I also have psoriasis. I also was a smoker. I used to smoke almost up to 2 packs a day. And I also was a social drinker, meaning I was socializing a lot. So, but no, like I was just a rootin' tootin' workaholic and did not really take my health as a priority. So the relapses that I had before, I just thought, oh, maybe it was bad diet. I was dehydrated. I kept putting it off as other things. However, the one in 2023, I could not put it off because it disabled me so bad that I had no choice but to go to the hospital because I knew something was extremely wrong because one, the vertigo was so intense. And this all happened while I was driving 75 miles an hour down the highway. The vertigo was so intense that I couldn't tell you which way was up or down. I started losing function in the left side of my body. And I was so hot that like, I literally felt like there was like a fever and then there was like my temperature. It was a moment I will never forget. And I was never one to go to the hospital, never wanted to go see doctors. But I knew I had to go because I literally thought I was either having a heart attack or a stroke because of my family history. And it also was a moment in my life where I really kind of thought that was it. Like I was going down. So there aren't words to explain or express how scared I was, but I was scared. So I went to the hospital, they found all the lesions. And then fast forward to March 2024, I was diagnosed with MS. Now, getting diagnosed, I did get a spinal tap and I did get my imaging. That with the test with the neurologist, my specialist at the Colorado MS Center is what confirmed that I have MS. You don't have to get a spinal tap. You do need to get an MRI from what I understand to diagnose MS. But the spinal tap was recommended and I just wanted to be 100% sure that this was it. And so I ended up doing it. And would I do it again? Yes, because it helped determine what I have and how we can move forward with it. So the shift. How does someone who have MS, thalassemia, and psoriasis show up and get medals at a bodybuilding show? All within 2 years, pretty much. And that's the fun part. So that's when lifting with MS really started. It wasn't just a name, but it was like my mindset. And it became so much about showing up no matter what was going on at the time. And I also needed to learn when to rest. And I had to change my mindset of resting is showing up. And for someone who was constantly on the go and constantly working and constantly going for the next thing, how do you tell someone like, dude, resting is something? No, it's not. But no, it very much is. And so that's a huge reason why I changed all my social media handles to Lifting with MS, because that's kind of what my motto was. It wasn't just so much living with MS, it was lifting with MS. I was physically lifting weights. I was lifting myself up every single day and trying to lift up an entire community of other people along the way. So Lifting with MS was born. Bodybuilding wasn't the first thing I did in fitness. I started in CrossFit. At the time when I was like on a cane and just really in a really dark hole, dark place, being, diagnosed with MS, not knowing what I was going to do, I saw a documentary on Amazon about CrossFit and the world's fittest athletes, and totally blown away about these people who will literally pick up the sandbag and have sand in their eyes and just go and not stop. These athletes are unreal, and they're really badass too. And the crazy part is the community is amazing. That's the one thing I took from CrossFit that blew my mind, was the community that they have built and that they have in every gym. And even gyms against gyms on the floor, they're competitors. But when it's all said and done, they'll go have a brew together, or they'll all go have a snack and just talk about how great each other did, even though they look like they were dying on the floor. And I love that about the MS community, or the CrossFit community. It's something I try and bring into the MS community, is like, yeah, like we're all suffering right now, but you're doing great. That's what I got from CrossFit. And the gym that I went to, I met some coaches there that ended up taking over their own gym, and I followed them over there for a little bit. But I learned very quickly that as much as I love CrossFit, I don't think it was not the type of training that I could do on the regular. It was increasing my symptoms. It was just making things really difficult for me. Now, there are athletes that have MS and do CrossFit. Actually, Josh just took the gold medal for the world's fittest athlete in the neuro division. So, and he has MS. So I'm not saying that if you have MS, you can't do CrossFit. It just did not work for me. But I love the community that was there, and those people will forever be in my heart. And I still love watching their journey and their story and what they do, and just constantly lift each other up. So I stepped away from CrossFit. Then I tried powerlifting. That was fun. I was really good at powerlifting because I naturally have strength. But there was an older gentleman that came up to me and said, hey, I just want to warn you that with powerlifting, eventually something's going to break, rip, or snap. And I was just like, what? Why would you say that? And he said, well, think about it. He's like, you're constantly putting your body to the absolute max. Eventually, you're going to find out that it is too much and something's going to happen. It happens to all of us. And after he said that, I really kind of took it to heart. And I was like, man, like, I kind of want to take this guy's advice and maybe just not do powerlifting. But I still want to be in the fitness industry. I have always been drawn to bodybuilding. Always been drawn to it. Even when I was fat, out of shape, and a smoker, I loved bodybuilders. I thought these people were just next level athletes, how they would intentionally put all this weight on and then just deplete all the way down to look a certain way to be on a stage. And the one thing that they are doing on that stage is getting judged. They are literally judged. That is bodybuilding. And it takes a certain type of person to be obsessed with the balance and the physique and every gram of rice. And you're just counting everything. Like everything in your daily life aligns to one thing, and it's being judged. And for whatever reason, society does not like being judged. But that's kind of why I was drawn to bodybuilding. I was like, these people are intentionally getting judged. They want to know, what do I need to do better? They were taking it as a criticism. Yes, there are salty bodybuilders out there. There are people who take it like very personal, and there are politics in it, just like everything else in the world. But at the same time, there was an obsession and a love for building the best version of themselves time after time after time again. And that's when I decided I'm going to try and do bodybuilding. August of 2024, I decided I was going to sign up for a bodybuilding show. I was 255 pounds at the time, and the stop sign from my house was exactly a mile away on a dirt road. We lived about 12, 15 miles of dirt road that was not maintained by the county. So I was like, I'm going to run to that stop sign. That's how I'm going to start training. I'm going to run to the stop sign. I ran probably about 200 yards and was hyperventilating. I was dying. It was terrible. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go halfway. So I went halfway and I came back. This was something that I kept doing over and over and over again. My goal was to be able to run to that stop sign and come back. And eventually over time, I was running to the stop sign and then 2 miles past it. It just was a consistent thing. Like every day, my goal was to make it to the stop sign. And I started losing weight like that. And I started to really look at my diet, started looking at everything that I was eating and inflammation and nightshade vegetables and just all this stuff. And just trying to just educate myself on bodybuilding and just building my body to be the best. And that's where I started to kind of get obsessed with it in a healthy way though. So at the time, or fast forward a little bit, January of 2025, I hired my coach, Chase, who has been an amazing individual and someone who has seen me bawl my eyes out on a computer screen because it's hard. And I had to deal with my MS and I had to deal with life. We all have to deal with life, but to have somebody in your corner help you navigate these waters that you've never been in is a total game changer. And honestly, someone who reached out to me on Instagram and truly wanted to talk on the phone and hear my story and why I want to bodybuild and do I want to compete. And it's funny because looking back on it, Chase and I have talked about how I kind of was like a lifestyle client at first. And a couple months into it, he quickly realized that I would probably eat dirt if I had to, if that meant getting on a stage. And so there was a shift in the way that we kind of worked together when he realized, like, when he said go, I would go. Like, it was just, I was there for it. I said I want to step on stage. I'm not messing around. I want to step on stage. I want to bring somebody to the stage that nobody's ever seen before, including myself. And we accomplished that as a team, which was amazing. So the journey to the stage is going to be a totally different podcast because that in itself was unbelievable. Now, in the time of me going in bodybuilding and all this stuff, I'm on an infusion therapy. I'm on a B cell depleting therapy that I go once every 6 months. And it is immunosuppressant therapy to help slow down the progression of MS. And having to deal with that is rough. It sucks because I'm not normal, but I have to change my perspective of like, you're right, I'm not normal. And that's fine because it was allowed in my life because I can handle it. And that's something that I've told myself over and over and over again is there's a reason why MS was allowed in my life. There's a reason why I stepped on a stage in bodybuilding and stuff. And I quickly learned that I wanted to be able to educate people with MS and without MS what the human mind is capable of, regardless of what's thrown at it, really. You always hear that saying that your perspective is your reality. And I believe in that a lot. I can't say that my perspective is I don't have MS. And so now I don't have MS. It's just, I have MS, but it's not going to slow me down because I'm going to keep going until I can't. I'm going to go until I can't. So yeah. So the purpose was like, I realized something, this I wrote down. So I realized something powerful through all this. We're all lifting something. For me, it was weights and MS. And for you, it could be anxiety, loss, self-doubt, or something that no one even sees, maybe because you don't let people see it. But we all have a choice. And we all can let that weight crush us, or we can let it build us. And there are so many things that I do in bodybuilding that relate into my life all the time. And that right there, we can let the weight crush us or use it to build us. Bodybuilders use weight to build size, to build growth, to build stamina, to build endurance. CrossFit people use weight to build. Fitness uses weight to build. So whatever weight you have, use it to build you up and not pull you down. Because that's what lifting with MS, that's why I started all it. That's why I wanted to embrace the vulnerability of being a human being and knowing that it's completely okay to feel what you feel, and it's okay to cry. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to have emotion. Like, you as a human being have the ability to feel emotion, and you should embrace that every day, regardless of the weight that you're carrying. So honestly, like, I'm really grateful for everything that's happened to me, and it's really changed my perspective on life, and it's allowed me to find who I am as a person and love myself wholeheartedly, unconditionally, regardless of my flaws and the things that I have to deal with on a daily basis. So if you're dealing with MS or anything that makes you feel heavier than normal, you're not alone. And I want you to know that it's okay to not be okay. Like, you're a human being. We all have been there. We all have felt down. We all have felt negative. And, we're not always going to be able to control what happens to us, but we're always going to be able to control how we react or respond to it. So with all that being said, if you like this podcast, please like, share, subscribe. Follow me on my social medias. If there's anything that you want me to dive deeper into, maybe even for the next episode, feel free to shoot me a message. I'm open. And if you have a story that you want to share as well, or even if you're interested in doing a podcast with me, that's great. Shoot me a message. And again, I'm nervous, but I appreciate you for the introduction, and I will see you guys soon.